Hello, I'm Rick Harp, host of APTN News Brief, a daily podcast version of the nightly broadcast of APTN National News. Available on all major podcast platforms, APTN News Brief is your quick way to hear the headlines every weekday morning. Learn more at aptnnews.ca/podcasts.
Good evening, I'm Sav Jonesa, and this is Face to Face. Our guest this week is artist, designer, and television personality Lance Cardinal. A member of Big Stone Cree Nation in Alberta and currently living in Edmonton, Lance has made a name for himself by bringing Indigenous and Two-Spirit representation to public spaces and the small screen. He hosts his own show on APTN called Indigenous Art Adventures and is the CEO of Soul Flame Creative Services. Known for his vibrant murals and zest for life, it seems Lance's goal is to create positivity wherever he goes. Thank you so much for being here, Lance. I've been really looking forward to talking with you today.
No problem at all. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You know, it feels like every time I turn around, you're up to something new. What have you been working on lately?
Oh my gosh, you know what? I always love to have my hand in a million things. I find as artists, it's important to sort of keep your work diverse, keep yourself inspired all the time. So I'm working on, of course, the television show here at APTN, and also some miniature work, and I'm working on some new murals in Edmonton, and a lot of really exciting stuff.
Wow. Yeah, you're on multiple television shows right now. You've designed for several brands, including a showroom for IKEA, and people can see your colorful murals all throughout Alberta. How does it feel to be making your mark in such a big way?
Oh my gosh, it's such an honor to have my work sort of seen by everyone in Alberta, all over the province. I think, like, for me, I'm trying to bring a message of positivity about Indigenous people, to show the beauty of who we are, and to create work that's vibrant like our culture, that's beautiful like our culture, and of course, create work that's approachable, that people will see and want to move towards or want to be a part of and understand who we are. And a lot of the work that I do, you know, I try to show the essence of our people, our belief systems, the way we view the world, our perspective on Mother Earth. These are things that I think people need to know more about us.
Absolutely. Any particular projects that stands out to you or that you're most proud of so far?
You know what, I'm really excited about all the work I do with IKEA. I think that creating spaces in that, that store is wonderful. We have an Indigenous family showcase room, and it really shows the everyday life of an Indigenous family, a local family from the area that we are featuring, and it has, Cree teachings in there, words, values, even some of their personal items in there. So it's a place to go to learn about Indigenous people, but also to realize that we are like everybody else, that we have, the type of lifestyle that everyone else has. We can have beautiful spaces. We have, a contemporary life with cultural elements, and that we are a part of modern day society.
And it's kind of inviting people into your home almost too, right?
100%. I put myself into my work. Everything I do is a reflection of what I was growing up with all my life, what I saw in my house, what I heard at my grandma's house, all the things I was taught. And then, of course, trying to bring forward things that I was never taught. I'm on my own journey right now of self-discovery, of discovering the part of myself as a cultural person that wasn't given to me. My grandmother, she went to residential school, so did my grandfather, and they went for most of their lives until they were, 15 years old. And so for a lot of years, we never heard about culture from my grandparents. We weren't taught those things. And now our family are kind of trying to catch up with learning about who we are as Indigenous people. So my journey as an artist is that, I create work that helps me learn about who I am more and encourages me to understand my own Indigenous identity.
That's fantastic. You've designed a medal for the World Rugby 7 Series, a Turtle Island logo for the Edmonton Oilers, and you've even hosted an Oilers game live for Sportsnet. What's it like to be involved in sports this way, which hasn't always been known to be a very inclusive place for Indigenous people and, to us LGBTQ people?
You know what? I really think that sports is one of those things that everyone can get behind, especially hockey. Hockey is a Canadian tradition. Here on Turtle Island, we all love it, especially small town. We have hockey where I'm from all the time, pond hockey, arena hockey, tournament hockey, and it's something that all Indigenous people, gather for. We have our powwows, we have our round dances, but also hockey, right? So I knew that when I was getting involved with sporting events like with the Oilers and with things like that, I wanted to make sure that we were seen there because we also love sports. And hockey is one of those things that everyone can get behind. Everyone in this country can be a part of. Indigenous people, non-Indigenous people, we can all be a part of it. And I was so excited to be asked to be a part of the team at the Edmonton Oilers as their Indigenous consultant, to bring a land acknowledgement video to the team, to bring a new logo that celebrates the land that we are on there in Edmonton. And I think that the Treaty 6 territory is important to celebrate along with that National Hockey League life. And it's been such an amazing response. The community is so excited about having that Turtle Island logo on the Oilers team jerseys. It lets people know that we are seen. It lets young people see that they can be a part of the hockey tradition, and it's super exciting.
When we first met, you were filming the first season of Indigenous Art Adventures, a kids show focused on culture and crafts on APTN. How did the idea for that show come about?
Well, you know what? During the pandemic, I really had nothing to do. I had been removed from my job at the time, and I was sitting at home thinking I wanted to do something fun for my nieces and nephews who were way far up north. I was in Edmonton, kind of isolated there. And I thought, why don't I do some videos online and create sort of a fun, kids show kind of vibe, make some videos, and then I can send them to my family and they can watch it. And I started doing them sort of live on Facebook. And then once that sort of ball started rolling, more people wanted to watch it. So I started my own YouTube channel. And I just wanted to create a place where people and kids and parents could come together in that isolating time to spend time together and make memories, something my grandfather always taught me. He taught me that making memory was the most important part of our lives, making memories together as people. And I thought, what a great way to do that by asking parents and kids to work together in art. That is something everyone can do. We can all express ourselves that way, and there's no wrong way to do it. So, it takes away all those expectations, those educational expectations, even, competition or, social expectations. Just being at home with some paper and glue and imagination brings people together, and that's what it was all about for me.
What drew you to children's programming specifically?
Well, when I was young, growing up in a very small town, I was a young Two-Spirit boy, really had nowhere to fit in. I didn't have anyone in my community that I could relate to. I was a bit of an outcast, a single parent family. We had a lot of adversity in our lives. We were very poor. There was lots of alcohol and drugs and poverty all around. No place to find peace and calm and fun and encouragement. I didn't have a father figure growing up, so I didn't get that voice of support that I needed. And television brought that for me. Kids shows showed me how to use my imagination. Those kids said to me, you are perfect the way you are. Have fun with your life. Be creative. And I never forgot that. And that's where I felt peaceful. That's where I felt I could escape to a world of imagination that had no requirements of me except for who I was. And so when I got older, I realized that that's what was missing for my nieces and nephews now. There is no children's entertainment that does that now. As far as I know, a lot of it's kind of like loud and bright and very like sort of in your face. But there wasn't much television that said, you're beautiful the way you are. I love who you are. Let's be creative together, and I'm here for you. And I needed that to be what I was doing with my career.
Wow. And I mean, you're doing what you needed when you were a kid, hey? Like that's fantastic. Sticking with TV, you're the first Indigenous contestant on Best in Miniature, CBC competition show where contestants make miniature dream homes for a cash prize. You designed a home around a teepee. Can you tell me a bit about the process for you?
Of course, it was so exciting to be on Best in Miniature. It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. We did that for 8 weeks, and I created a very unique style home. It was a sort of a round powwow arbor style home with lots of wood and beams, and with a beautiful yard in the center and a teepee in the middle, and really wanted to create a home that celebrated Indigenous values, the circle, the medicine wheel style, having the open area with the teepee, having a beautiful modern home with glass doors and windows, juxtaposed to traditional elements like a drum making room and things like that, and a teepee for ceremony outside. And I wanted to really, use that opportunity and my passion for miniature work to tell a story of who we are, as always. And the story I wanted to tell was about a modern contemporary family who live in the city, who have a beautiful home, and who also powwow on the weekends, and are medicine people and have traditional ways of living, and really let people know once again that we are modern people. We have the same beliefs and value systems that everyone else has, and we can have a beautiful, luxurious home. We can live in a beautiful space and still be traditional. I thought that was really important.
Wow. You're bringing Indigenous representation to all facets of the world, and we're going to talk about that a bit more, but we need to take a quick break right now. So stick around and we'll be right back here on Face to Face with Lance Cardinal.
APTN presents a captivating journey into the heart of the North with our latest podcast, The Place That Thaws.
Some areas that used to be safe are no longer safe.
Hosted by me, Danielle Parody. Join us as we uncover the intricacies of life on a changing coast. Subscribe and listen to The Place That Thaws.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm here with Lance Cardinal. So you've been doing art, acting, and the like for a few decades now. What inspired you to go after this career path as an artist?
My goodness, you know what? I have always been that kind of person who wants to be inspired at all times. I always want to be creating, moments of inspiration or telling a story or, being in the spotlight. I've always loved, being on stage and performing and, creating art that people would be excited about. And I think for me, it just is another form of communication that, a lot of times growing up in our family, we didn't have skills for communication. My grandparents who were in residential school, they lost the ability to communicate well, to say good things or positive reinforcements, or even "I love you." That word was never used in our family. And I think for me now as an adult, it was important for me to really push myself to have communication skills, to say things. And I think one of the great skills I learned growing up was it wasn't always with your voice. It wasn't always important to say to somebody, "I'm here for you, I support you, I love you." That it's done by showing, by creating beautiful art that talks about it, or creating a song, or singing, or dancing in a way that shows that you feel something. And I love that about communication. There's lots of different ways.
Going back in time, you've said growing up as a Two-Spirit boy was difficult because there weren't really role models in your life you could look up to. What got you through that time?
My goodness, it was really tough for me growing up. There was a lot of, a lot of pressure for me to be a certain way, especially in a small town. I was expected to do sports and as a boy to date girls and like things like mud and trucks. It wasn't really my thing. I wanted to play with crafts and paper dolls. So I had a bit of my own struggle with identity even as a small Two-Spirit boy. And I think but that also gave me a really great sort of resilience. Along with my Indigenous resilience, of course, which is something that we all have because we face the society who thinks that we are not valuable enough to be, in the forefront of the world. And we're moving there ourselves. We're pushing ourselves there, and people are starting to open doors for us to allow us to be seen a bit more. But it's always been a struggle as well, as a Two-Spirit person, to find out my identity within the world. Even now as an adult, it's still difficult. But I remember, one of my elders recently bringing me into the forest and to talk with me about my art and who I was as an artist. And I was really sort of conflicted about, was my Two-Spirit self part of that journey? Was it important, or was it even valued as an Indigenous person? And so that elder who brought me into the forest to tell me, we want to tell you that you are valuable. Your Two-Spirit side is part of you, and it's a healing gift. And that elder told me that was my gift. That was part of my gift as a healer, was my art, and that my Two-Spirit self was accepted, and that I was to use that skill and that gift to put my art forward and to express my voice in that way. And that was an amazing moment for me.
Tell me more. Like, how did that feel to hear that from him?
It was incredible. I've always known that Two-Spirit people were important traditionally. Many years ago, before Western society came forward, our society had no gender roles, no gender language. Two-Spirit people were integrated quite strongly. We were the leaders of the community. We were side by side with the medicine people. We were revered as spiritual beings. The male and female energy was really important then. And I think that as Western society became a part of our society, we let some of those values go, and we accepted different values for ourselves, like the tribal systems and chief and council, which really were never a part of our lives, traditionally. And then, of course, these male-dominated roles and these female-dominated roles that were not traditional. And I think it was nice to hear that we're moving again towards that now the elders are looking and saying, we are seeing and we are wanting Two-Spirit people to be celebrated again where they traditionally belong. This just the way we are empowering our women, our Iskweu, to become the leaders again of their role as community leaders. I think it's important to see, and it's beautiful to see our elders starting to use that language to say Two-Spirit people are healers, and we want them to be part of our community just the way that they are.
That's fantastic. From what I can find, you're the first Two-Spirit host and possibly the first out 2S LGBTQ host of a children's show. What does that mean to you?
Well, you know what? It's so important for me to remember my little Two-Spirit self. And when I do my work, I'm here to nurture that little boy. Everything I do, I always ask myself, would that have nurtured you as a young Two-Spirit child? And I think about, being a Two-Spirit person as an adult, and my identity is something that is important to me as a portrayer of Indigenous culture, a positive, influencer of our language, our culture, our people. And I think making people see that being Two-Spirit can be a part of who you are, and it doesn't have to be, either something that's to be afraid of or something to not talk about. It's something that is a part of you, as much as the clothes you wear, the things you see, the art you create, the people you love in your life. And I want to make sure that I allow it to be balanced, that it's all part of who I am. I want people to know that, if you are a Two-Spirit child watching this show, or a Two-Spirit adult, that it all is a part of who you are. It can be integrated. It can be one beautiful spirit, and that's all that really matters.
Well, I definitely agree with you there. We have to take another quick break, but stick around, and we'll be right back with Lance Cardinal on Face to Face.
I'm Kathleen Martins, a reporter with APTN News. Homeless, houseless, shelterless people, they aren't hard to find in Winnipeg. They're on the sidewalks, in bus shelters, and down alleyways. They're living in tents and squatting in empty buildings. They're even sleeping in abandoned cars. But who are they? Hear their stories in my new 5-part podcast called Our Relatives. Listen on your favorite player.
Welcome back. Our guest this week is Lance Cardinal. He's a Cree artist, designer, and television personality from Alberta. I've seen online that you're creating a miniature replica of St. Martin's Mission School. That's the residential school that your grandparents went to. And here's a video of you working on it.
Now, this was such an emotional and overwhelming journey for me, building this school from scratch, doing the research, talking to people in my community, learning about this history, something that many of us don't speak about.
So what made you want to recreate a place that holds, what I assume to be such difficult associations?
Wow. Just watching that video right now really brought some feelings to me about the process of creating that. That was a very intense process for me. It was a vision I was given. Most of my art that I do, I work through vision work. I ask for images, I ask for work from creator, and I'm given it. I was given the vision of creating this piece many years ago, and I've been really struggling with the time to do it. And now seemed like a good time. I had some spare time to create this piece, and for me, the process was intense. The history of finding out things about my family that I never knew, this history we never spoke about. But more importantly, I think it's important to remember that these places existed, that this is not a part of our history that's past, that people are still alive from that building that I created. I've met survivors who were in that very building, in that school, and they have memories of my grandmother, and I'm learning about her now that she's gone even more. And I think, there's a lot of intergenerational trauma that's left over for us as people. No matter who we are, no matter how much we think we have moved forward as Indigenous people, we have so much carried down pain and hard history that we don't have the skills sometimes to process. And for me, I like to create things that will help honor that will help initiate conversation. And yes, it's difficult. This is a difficult topic. It's a very a painful reminder of a past that's gone. But you know what? I think that we don't know enough about ourselves. We need to understand why our people are struggling now, why our families are separated, why we are trying to find these children now. What's that? Why are we doing this? And I think having more understanding about our own family, about why they're struggling, will help us to have more empathy for ourselves, bring more healing to our own people, which I think is really, the new wave of reconciliation is self-reconciliation. We need to focus on ourselves now, our own journeys, our own healing with ourselves, to ourselves. And I think that having more understanding of what our grandparents went through in these spaces will help us understand why our parents have disconnect, why kids are on the streets, why our people aren't feeling confident enough to start a new business or to have their own TV show. And so many people are struggling with even getting out of bed in the morning and not knowing why. So I'm hoping this piece will help bring some answers and some dialogue for our families to heal.
Just quickly, but do you have any advice for people who might be struggling with identity, whether it's their Indigenous identity, the identity of their family, or maybe being Two-Spirit or LGBTQ?
Identity is such a delicate and sensitive thing to explore. But I think, for me, when I try to figure out who I am, I always like to, surround myself with a bunch of things, a bunch of ideas, a bunch of pictures, memories, and try to find places in there that feel right to me. And sometimes it's a matter of just researching, talking to people, asking your grandparents, if they're still with you, to speak about their past. Ask questions that might seem, mundane, but what it was like for you growing up, and find out what the history is in your family, who those people are that you're related to. Find out where your home community is, what that land is like, what are the animals like there, what are the lakes like, what's it like to be in nature in your home territory. I think even just exploring the land with your feet, walking in the grass where you grew up, finding out where your family are from and going there, seeing what it was like, what are the trees like, the air. Connecting in a natural way with your home territory is probably the best thing to do. Talking to your family about where you're from, who's your relatives, who are your kin, not necessarily even your blood relations, but who are the kin in your family, who raised you, who raised your grandma. That's something that might be very interesting to learn about.
Well, I think that you've given us a lot to think about during this conversation, and I so appreciate you coming by and taking some time to be on this show with us.
Absolutely, it's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's all the time that we have for the show this week. You can always catch up on any episodes you may have missed by visiting our website, aptnnews.ca, or by visiting APTN News page on YouTube. This show and past episodes are available as podcasts. You can find those at aptnnews.ca/face-to-face podcast. Thank you for tuning in to Face to Face. I'm Sav Jonesa, and we'll see you here in 7 days.
Hi, I'm Annette Francis. Nation to Nation is a political show keeping an eye on Ottawa on how they're affecting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples across the country. You'll meet the movers and shakers of policy in Canada and those who are trying to make a change. Listen to these discussions and more on Nation to Nation podcast. For more, visit aptnnews.ca/podcast or subscribe and listen on your favorite player.